Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Bianca Camarillo. I'm one of the co-curators of this exhibition, currently at Santa Fe Art Institute in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This exhibition that we are presenting there is called InPlace, Future Artifacts and Remembrance on El Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. Here are some images that we have of the show that we had our opening day. So SciArt Santa Fe is a 501c3 nonprofit community service. They provide a lot of interested in science and history. Their goal is to further Santa Fe's role in an international hub of art science through public programs, facility. And here are some of the sponsors. Mesa del Sol, UNM Fine Arts, STEAM New Mexico, and AmeriCorps Vista. And these are also our other sponsors, Department of Cultural Affairs in Mexico, National Endowment for the Arts, New Mexico Arts, Public Support for the Arts. So the location that this exhibit is at Santa Fe Art Institute, they are an independent organization. They have also residencies there for many types of artists. They have supported over 70 artists, activities, and creative practitioners. This is a wonderful gallery that they also have part of their building. And this laser is especially being brought to you by the Leonardo Leonardo is a part of these laser talks. They are Leonardo Art and Science Evening Rendezvous. So a little bit about Leonardo. Leonardo International Society of Arts and Science and Technology. They foster transformative nexus of art, science, and technology. They're also involved in these laser talk programs that have held over 50 organizations, bringing art, science, and humanities together. We are currently live on YouTube. This is our YouTube channel, SciArt Santa Fe, in case you are not able to make our webinar. So today's artist, part of this exhibition, is named Angel Cabrales. He is currently the assistant professor at the University of Texas at El Paso, or UTEP. A little information about Angel from his bio. Angel views everything as an artistic resource and utilizes this in all his creations. From his extension experience with a variety of mediums and styles to the intangibles, such as his upbringing in El Paso, Texas, Borderlands, his work grows and expands with the requirements presented from each new idea. His father is a retired engineer from White Sands Missile Range. His mother was a political activist, also a stay-at-home mom, and made sure to teach her children about the important values of community and social work. A lot of this work comes through in Angel's artwork, and definitely his presence. Angel's work is an amalgamation of his upbringing, resulting in social and political commentary with an engineered flair. The artwork concept ultimately dictates the medium needed for its creation. So artistic evolution is interest in his philosophy. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to the artist himself, Angel Cabrales. Stop sharing.
Hello. Am I going to share a screen or?
Yes, you are. 1 minute. Trying to. Okay.
You have to stop sharing your screen.
Oh, there it is.
Hello. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, this is taking a while. For some reason, it doesn't want to share my screen.
Did that work?
Something.
I try.
There you go. How about that?
It is not allowing me to share the screen.
Share.
Angel, I think Bianca made you host, so you should have share capabilities from the share screen button. What are you seeing when you open up share screen?
It's taking me to my system preferences and it's asking me to click on it, but it's not giving me an option to click on it. Oh wait, is that there yet? No.
System preferences. That's something I've never seen before. I'm going to quick Google it.
Yeah, sorry. 1 second. Okay, I think I got it. Okay.
Are you on a Mac?
Yes, I am.
Are you on OS 10, Catalina?
Yes.
Okay, it says you need to allow Zoom access to screen recording to share your screen. You can do this in your system preferences. Select security and privacy option. Click the privacy tab. And then scroll down to screen recording.
Okay.
And then once you get there, you check the option for zoom.us.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, where is this thing? All right, there I am. Can you all see it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Bianca, can you mute yourself because I'm echoing? All right, so the work that I have there is part of the Uncolonized, which is a vision in the parallel, which is a peek into the parallel universe that I've created. where the Western Hemisphere averted colonization and the indigenous people of the lands thrived unobstructed. One second. Okay. So in order to create this world, I had to make a completely different universal timeline. So I did a lot of research for a couple of years, reading tons of books, looking into my own heritage to create this world. And you would ask, I was like, well, why would you want to create a world like this? And a big part of it is growing up Mexican American and not really knowing a lot about my own ancestral heritage aside from the European side. I would talk to my parents and ask, you know, where we came from, you know, and such. And my parents were always able to easily tell us about the Spanish side of our heritage. And then you would hear was like, well, you have some, you know, some Tarahumara, you have some Zapotec, and you, which would of course interest me. And then I'd ask more about it, which would then give me, I already got a lot of dismissiveness, kind of like, well, we don't really know a lot about that, but, you know, let's just celebrate the European side, which was nice, but I really wanted to know more. So I started researching more and finding out that, you know, like the Tarahumara were actually called the Rarumari. My grandfather was the Rarumari, which I did not know until 12 years after he'd passed away. My mom, you know, told me her family came from Oaxaca. There was a Zapotec connection. And this really, really interested me and really made me want to know. It was like, if I can't know directly the family that it comes from, at least I can know the people. So I started doing this research and really started to realize that there is a lot of amazing science and technology that came from, you know, Mesoamerica. This is the timeline itself. It is 16 feet long and 3 feet wide. And along the timeline, you can see where the timeline diverges and splits in 1519. The top of the timeline happens to be the timeline we are currently living in, and the timeline below is the timeline of the uncolonized. So it goes from 2500 BC to today. Just a little bit, so you can see how long it is. And then we have these close-ups of a close-up of one of it. And you can see along this timeline, it's really talking about what happens in this world and how the indigenous people live and change and how the timelines are changed. Along with this, because I love science fiction, it really takes a science fiction take. I wanted to make pieces that showed the divergence. This is the United Nations of Anahuac. Anahuac means the place between water. And I really wanted to show this section of the United Nations of Anahuac because it is actually the entire hemisphere, not just Mexico, the Mexico section, but this is the central part where it began. So I wanted to show the divergence that started where we have desalinization units on the West Coast. They have solar panels because this is more of a renewable energy society. Along with it, there was also a play on the words of, you know, the Mexica being the people of the sun. So I thought it made a lot of sense to make their energy sources coming from the sun. Oops. So along with that, there's stories and dioramas like the giant United Nations of Anahuac. And so I made Tancucuclan on its way to Paso del Norte. And so I wanted to show how these indigenous tribes started to reach out to all of the other Native Americans throughout the Western Hemisphere. It was also a play on a lot of the books that I would read were always talking about how the Mayans and the Mexica and all these people in Mesoamerica did not have the wheel. And it's not necessarily true. They did have a wheel. They used them as toys and other things, but it didn't make sense to have a wheel when you lived in a jungle. It made more sense to have skids or treads. So I wanted to show that advancement of using a tread instead of the wheel in itself to traverse large distances. The nice thing about making a lot of these things is it's not enough to just want to make a pyramid on tank treads. I really wanted it to work. So my tank is remote controlled as well. Along with this storyline, I also wanted to show the differences in this world, but along with the similarities. So I wanted to show the first lunar landing of the Aztecnonauts. So we have the lunar landing as their ship is called La Piñata Cósmica. And the ship is a piñata, but in the shape of a llama. As the Aztecnonauts are on the moon, I also wanted to play on the type of tools they would have, which would play on the macahuatil, which is the sword that the Mexica would use, as well as the Mayans, which was a wooden sword with obsidian blades. In this world, the advancement that's made is that the macahuatil is now used as a sedimentary analyzer, and the blades themselves are on a chain so that they can cut into the stone and take a readout of what they're looking at as they're on the moon. And it has a digital display to read out, and of course it runs on solar power. This part was just added in because of COVID. I wanted to show that the Mexica had a god of infection and pandemic, and his name was Chalcuitotolin. And because of that similarity, I wanted something that would show the almost a comparison to the plague doctor mask, and taking that plague doctor mask and turning it into the god of infection and pandemic. This mask is also wearable, by the way. So in playing with the lunar landing, Cuauhtémoc VIII is the first man to walk on the moon. Cuauhtémoc means descending eagle. So it was a play on the words of the eagle has landed. In this world, the descending eagle has landed. And I really wanted to show not only like what happened on this timeline, but also the type of toys the children in this world would play with. Growing up, a lot of us have toys that are, they're action figures, they're soldiers, or they're homemakers, or construction workers. And I wanted to show in this world, they really wanted to show their children aspiring things they could be of that would uplift and carry their world forward. So their toys are astronauts and scientists, chemists and mathematicians. So we have the figure of Cuauhtémoc VIII as the Aztecnonaut with a sedimentary analyzer, along with Naxili, which is the Nahua word for I love you. And she is the sapotechnical engineer showing the love to us to inspire and take the world further into the future through its architecture. And so that's her drone that she works with. And a lot of the figures themselves are taken and making sci-fi versions of the traditional dress, like in this case, the Zapotec. I also wanted to take figures from history, like the lady of the Overlord and Holy Snake Lord, which was a character that she actually ruled as a leader of the Mayas, and she becomes the first mathematician in this world. Instead of using her skills at strategy to rule and fight, instead she creates the first system of mathematics that carries them forward. And she's got her own tablet as well, and her own board, digital board that she can write on with the figures. Along with that, I really wanted to play upon the Olmec, who were known as the rubber people, and turn them into the chemists of this world, showing, and really because they vulcanized rubber at such an early time period, and they had this great importance that they gave to blood as being really important in health and nature in itself. So along with this, I wanted to make other pieces that would move along with along the show, and this was the Sigues de Cultura, and showing the different symbols from all of these cultures that went through this time period and advanced. And these were all LED backlit, and they would change color along with the music that was playing in the background, because I really love making pieces that not only just work with the traditional sense, but also play with technology and encompass as many senses as possible. So when you would come into this show, not only would you see sculptures and paintings, but also hear music, and if you're lucky during one of the shows, food as well. These are my laser cut resin paintings. This painting itself, it means it's calendar, the calendar anomaly, playing upon the divergence of the timeline. This is about 20 different layers of resin laid on each other with different laser cuts in between the resin layers in itself. Oops, I don't know how that one got back in there, sorry. These are some more of the resin paintings. This is the Apoteos de Astecnonata, and as well as the Sapotecnico Ingenieria. And a big part of it is instead of having saints on stained glass, they have their scientists. So along with this, like I said, there is video. I'm not going to play the video. It's I find that when you try to share a video on Zoom, it kind of slows down and gets distorted. But if people do want, I can send links later on. The first video I made in 2019 was a vision in the parallel, which was the discovery of the universe and tearing of the universal membrane to get into this world. And this shows the tearing of the membrane. And Quantum Coet, which was another version of the discovery of the parallel universe and zeroing in on this parallel world. Because, like I said, I want to incorporate more than just a person standing there. I then created Tequi Yaotil, which is the sacred portal. And I wanted to bring the people of this universe into our own, in our reality. So I wanted to create this portal that would breach the universal membrane and bring them into this reality. So as the membrane is breached, the Aztecnonaut is the first to come into this world, and they test the atmosphere and look into this world to see if it's safe for the rest of the explorers to come through. Once it's deemed safe, the Sapotechnical engineer comes through, who is also the creator of the portal in itself, and she starts analyzing and seeing the differences within our realities. All of this is set to music that was specifically made for this universe by a friend of mine. We collaborated together to make a Mesoamerican technocumbia that the dancers dressed as the figures would come through. This is the mathematician who calculated how to find our world. And she comes through within her calculations and dances along with the others, bringing through the Olmec chemist, who then comes through to analyze this world, its chemical makeup, as well as the people within. And they all danced along with it. A big part of the dance, though, was also to incorporate the audiences as well. So as they danced around the people, they drew them into the dance to celebrate their heritage of what they are. Because in multiverse theory, if there's a possibility of it, then this world exists in another universe. So here they are celebrating their heritage of who they are in their penultimate version. And all of the dancers dance through, bring them through, and invite them into their world. Okay, that's the end of my PowerPoint. Okay, everybody else is muted. I don't
Can
know
hear
what
you,
else.
David.
Sorry, I muted myself. So no, I mean, it's really great to see the whole story in parallel because we've been talking about this for so long, and you've really put a lot of time into the thought process and the narrative. And the way that I see it in the show is that it's very central to the show. A lot of the things are more in place in reality, but you bring this altered reality to the show, and it really some of the ideas we've spoken about with the show it relates to historic preservation, about how we interpret the landscape, and to give people to come into the show and to see that there are other ways of thinking about our history, and they're in different ways. For example, with Kate Bowles' work, she talks about a monument to non-humans, and what you're talking about is almost like a monument to superheroes, but they're superheroes that you've created. So I think it's really great to see that in the space of a gallery, to have that conversation, to kind of change the way that people perceive how our reality. And so and bringing the science and the technology and the math, it's really an interesting way of using sculpture to visualize something that doesn't I mean, the sculptures, they exist, and the art, it exists in itself, but the reality, it's really playing with this, the Western perspective on art. So I really appreciate what you've done, and thank you for participating in this.
There are a couple questions in chat. I'm wondering if you want to get to those.
I was going to bring those up. So one of the questions is, where do you think the performance will go further besides UTEP, where it was first performed?
My hope is to take it to Santa Fe at some point. I am talking with one of the few indigenous charter schools in the nation, which happens to be in Las Cruces, and they asked if we could do this performance in Las Cruces for the students out there. We're hoping that'll be sometime in September. I've also submitted it to Luminaria in San Antonio to try to take it there as well. And pretty much, I met with the choreographer, Melissa Melpignano, and she has been amazing in working with me to bring this dance to fruition. And I'm actually meeting her next week to see where and how we can take it even further, which I really hope to do, and expand on the music as well with my friend Henry Van, who, as I said, we worked together to create the sound. Well, he made it. I just told him what I needed, and he did a phenomenal job that matched exactly what was needed. So the great thing about this work is, since it is a universe, it's in constant evolution. So every time there's an exhibition of this show, there's always an expansion of the work. So every time you see it, there's going to be a little more that's added to it as well. More of the story, more sculpture, and hopefully more collaboration, bringing in more collaborations to expand that universe.
So another question was that we would love to hear more of the perspective of the current state and future potential for monuments in this region, especially in and around El Paso and the border area.
The current state of, I guess, monuments, a big part that I think monuments have to do is to really create a dialogue of the history that surrounds them, and really try to take that history in not like this pro-national approach that you really see in a lot of monuments, but more the truth to the people around. I love El Paso. I love the people there. However, I don't like that we have 15 monuments and murals to Don Oñate without people actually knowing the true history of Don Oñate. And at the same time, El Paso, which has the Tiwa Indians and the Tarahumara / Raramuri and Wixicali and all of these other indigenous tribes that are around us, and we don't have one indigenous monument in El Paso. So what I would really like is for the monuments to really talk about the history that represents the people of that area. I think UTEP did a really good job in recognizing that where UTEP is, those were indigenous grounds. And they did make some plaques for it, which I'm really proud that my students made the stands for them with symbols that represent each tribe on the back of them. But I don't think it's enough. And I really hope that monuments would really consider the history of the area that is beyond just the United States history. Next question.
Yeah. So another question. Oh, do you think about commercializing the figures? It would be empowering for all children to be able to play with these icons instead of dominant culture icons.
Along with that, and the question before it, which is asking about, the universe itself having a major level such as Avatar, and the context of tools and objects. I actually am in talks about making it a film. And so that's part of what I'm going to be working on for the rest of this year is trying to make a short for this universe as for the people I'm talking to about expanding it further, but then also trying to take it in different mediums such as graphic novels. And of course, I would love to make toys for children, to empower children, because as I said, I mean, growing up, we had soldiers and we had superheroes, but really that representation of representation for Latinos in itself. That's one of the things that's always irked me, is when I look at a film that's about Latinos, it's very pigeonholed, where the story is about the borderlands and the cartels, or people growing up in the barrio, or people that are working as maids or day laborers. And there's so much more to our history and who we are than to pigeonhole us in those stories alone. Yes, those stories are needed, but at the same time, what about the stories about the scientists? Like my dad's a rocket scientist. My mom was a social, actively, like she was active in politics, actually ran for office in New Mexico. And I want to be able to have figures that will inspire kids to go, what, we can carry this further. And because we have that ability as well. So yes, I would love to make action figures. Next question.
I have one, if it's all right if I jump in. Can you share your thoughts about your manufactured icons as monuments as compared to current existing historical monuments that may be equally manufactured due to historical bias?
Let me think on that real quick. So, whereas the manufactured bias that we have within the ones that we have, yes, they are telling a story and a narrative to skew our views of what this world is, I believe. When we have, Confederate monuments that are out there, and people don't really understand why those should not be monuments. Granted, we can have them as statues in museums to really talk about what the history actually was. I think a monument raises and uplifts the status of what they are, so that people, it's more of a praising of the status that they're at. What I'm trying to do is, yes, make these monuments in a manufactured world, but it's not saying this is our world. This is one that exists on another plane, and look at what they can do, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense of taking people and saying, this is our potential. Let's strive to meet that potential. And instead of taking a narrative and saying, well, like a lot of the Confederate monuments were made to instill fear in another race and people.
Angel, in your series of work, where do you feel this universe would fit better in a sense of making it more or as popular as like Marvel or DC, or do you want this to go more into the serious realm of like college-based education or seminars?
I would like it to be in every place, because you can talk about it seriously in a college and in seminars, but at the same time, you can also write stories of this timeline that would also reach children or incorporate people that, interest people that at first were never interested in this storyline. I want to be able to touch as many people as I can to create dialogue, not just within academia, but with everyday people. I have family members that when they see this show or friends, they'd never really thought about their own heritage in itself. And it doesn't limit it just to Latinos in itself. People are just living in the day-to-day, and they don't think of where they came from. And I think it's important to think of where you came from, not in a sense of like to be ashamed of it, but go, this is where I am, this is what I can be, or this is the direction that I can learn from, that this was a mistake, and really create that dialogue. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be in one area in itself.
So we have another question in the chat. Do you see the backstory you created as a means of describing or correcting reality? Or are you really going speculative in nature, using storyline as an aspiration?
I like the sense of aspiration. I don't think we can really go back and undo the damages that happened 500 years ago. And I don't want to be angry about it or remorseful about it. I mean, we are where we are. But what we can do is look back and look at the potential that was had and celebrate that and use it to carry forward what we can be. And I really like creating this story in that it can inspire you to go, well, you know, if the Mayans created the number 0 way back in like 2000 BC, you know, what would that potential have been had they continued on, you know, all the way up to today? What would the mathematics be when they're based on, like, say, the number 20, as opposed to we base ours on the number 10? You know, there's a lot of different avenues that it could take. And I think that in itself could inspire a new form of thinking along our mathematics and our science as well.
One question that I had got in the gallery when we had the week after the opening was one interested, she was also a curator, I believe, from Japan, and she had seen your map in the gallery and asked, you know, possibilities of collaboration with other countries in this type of parallel universe. What possibilities are you thinking of, or expansions are you thinking of lately?
What I'd really like to do is, well, I mean, I'm going to Mexico this summer to expand on the research of Mesoamerica in itself. I do want to meet more indigenous artists or other indigenous peoples from South America and North America as well, to really expand the story of this universe and really think about what does the rest of the world look like as well. In this world, what does Europe look like? What does, you know, Asia look like? What does Australia look like? What kind of worlds do they have as well? Because I want a world where we reach a positive potential, where we're actually caring for our environment and our people as well, not just, you know, fighting for, you know, survival and like in this me world.
So in a sense, you're looking more of finding a utopic entire universe, or will there be some concept of like dystopic events that, you know, usually when you see movies where people are trying to fix the past and they come back to the future and it's all in destruction and disarray because something happened that wasn't supposed to happen.
Now, granted, when you write a story that's going to be like on TV or in a book or in a comic book, you do have to have some conflict, because nobody wants to just read a book of sunshine and unicorns, unfortunately. But you have to have some sort of conflict. And so I am trying to work on this, but not in a negative light, which has taken some work. I'm just trying to use different points of view in community and trying to make people create a dialogue to see which they think would be best. And honestly, I think one where people are helping each other achieve their better potential would work best.
So we have one more question. Have you shared this work in communities across the nation yet? It makes sense in El Paso and near the border. How about Northeast or Midwest?
I am working on taking this exhibition as far as I can. I would love to be able to take it into Mexico and South America as well, not just the Midwest and then the US. Currently, it's showing in Dallas, Texas, which is at least south, not really southwest. It is getting a positive reception out there. The timeline itself is going to be exhibited in the ambassador's residence in Mexico City. I'm really excited about that because that's going to give it a bigger international audience where people can actually read this alternative timeline to create dialogue. The ambassador himself has said it's really important for people to see that potential within itself and create dialogue about the indigenous people. But as I go along, I would love to take it further into the Midwest and incorporate the indigenous people within those locations as well, to expand that universe. Like I said, this is a storyline that is not just limited to Mesoamerica, but when you read the timeline, it reaches into North America and South America and really changes what the entire hemisphere looks like. So I would love, and I'm trying to work on sharing it with as many people as I can. Yes, the immigrant communities everywhere. I would love. I had a show in Pittsburgh in January, and it made. I mean, it was a group show with other artists as well, and it was amazing to me to be out there and talk to people that weren't just Latinos, that the artwork was actually able to connect with as well. So I would love to, as Technonaut flash mobs would be amazing. I really do want to reach out to as many people as possible to create this dialogue. And if I can get people to cosplay all of these characters, that would make me even happier.
Well, it looks like we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much, Mr. Cabrales, for being a part of this exhibition and then being a part of this laser talk. We really appreciate your artwork and you as a person. We hope to work with you in the future. Hopefully, SciArt Santa Fe and other types of our sponsors can hopefully bring this performance and, you know, help spread the word about you in Santa Fe and further on.
Thank you, and I would love to work with you all again. It's been great.
So we're going to go ahead and pass it off to David, which is going to give some information about our website. For further information about Angel, go ahead and contact us. We're gladly to answer any questions and get you in contact with Angel. So thank you. Still on mute, David.
All right. So just all right, I'm not on mute, right? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. So I'm just gonna share our website. It has, since we have we're open on Fridays from 1 to 6. We have a limited time, so we're only open until May 28th. That's the end of the show. But what we've done is we've created a kind of a digital archive with all the information, with all of our artists, including Angel. And so when you go in to learn more, we have some of the what's in the gallery, so you can get a sense of vision in parallel, uncolonized vision in parallel. And we also have we have Heidi Brandau is going to be our next laser, and it says in the slide that it's at 6:30, but it's actually starting at 6. We have Kate Bowles. Kate Bowles' work is guest room multi-species condenser. And what she's done is she's created monuments to non-humans. She's taken Angel, like you, she's taken non-humans and created a narrative around that idea. And so these are structures that she's actually designed, and there's 3D renders in the gallery. It's explaining that. Chico McMurtry's work with the morphic robotic works. We have some drawings and a model of the robot that is a lightweight robotic structure that explores the notions of borders and boundary conditions. And we have a video on that demonstrating that. We also have the Border studio from University of New Mexico. It's an interdisciplinary historic preservation, landscape architecture, and architecture looking at the contested area of the border. We also have landscape architecture renderings looking at memorials and monuments. One of them is a COVID memorial. We also have a memorial about people who have died from homelessness. So that's just an overview of the show, and we hope to see you there on Fridays from 1 to 6 until May 28th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. And thank you everybody that has tuned in through YouTube Live or seeing this later in recording. We want to thank you so much for being a part of this and getting to be a part of this experience with us, opening InPlace. We hope to see you later in our other lasers. So thank you very much.